They thought she was wolfless, but her execution awoke the golden lunar alpha. The cold wind whipped across the stone walls of the courtyard, carrying with it the scent of iron and fear. People had gathered, though none dared speak above a whisper. The king's edict was clear. Serenia of the wolfless house was to be executed at dawn. Her crime, or so the nobles claimed, was simple. She bore no wolf bond, no companion of the supernatural packs that served the kingdom's alphas. In this land, a wolfless Omega was not only feared but believed to bring ruin. Serenia walked with measured calm, her hands bound before her, the coarse rope biting into her wrists. Her eyes, gray and solemn, scanned the sea of faces. Hatred, curiosity, and trembling fear shone in the crowd's eyes, yet she did not flinch. Even now, she carried herself with a quiet dignity that unsettled them. She had grown accustomed to their fear, their whispers, and their pointed fingers. For years, she had worn the mark of exile like a cloak around her shoulders, but today, it would no longer be enough to hide behind. The executioner, a burly man with hands like iron, waited near the raised platform, axe gleaming in the pale light. The guards behind him shifted uneasily, sensing something in the air that had nothing to do with the morning chill. A silence fell over the courtyard, thick and suffocating, as the first rays of the sun pierced the horizon. The Alpha King himself observed from a balcony above. His presence was absolute, commanding obedience through the weight of his stare alone. His crown seemed too heavy, not just with gold, but with the unspoken burdens of centuries-old power. He had heard rumors of Serenia's secret, yet he remained skeptical. How could a wolfless Omega, cursed in the eyes of every pack in the kingdom, hold any strength beyond mere survival? Serenia's lips pressed into a thin line. Her heart beat steadily, though the world around her quivered in expectation. She had been preparing for this moment for years, not for the death itself, but for what lay dormant inside her, a power she had barely begun to understand. The villagers called it superstition, the scholars would have laughed at her. But she had felt it since childhood, a pulse within her, rhythmic and golden, that no sword or decree could sever. The executioner stepped forward. "Any last words?" His voice was rough, and he sneered as though her reply could change nothing. Serenia lifted her chin. "I am no one's omen," she said softly, but her voice carried across the courtyard as if amplified by some unseen force. The words stirred unease among the crowd. Whispers rose like ripples on water. "No one's omen, no one's omen." The Alpha King's eyes narrowed. He had not expected defiance, not such quiet, undeniable courage. The executioner raised the axe. For a heartbeat, time seemed to still. The sun caught on the blade, glinting like a promise of finality. And then, before the weapon could fall, a strange warmth erupted from Serenia. A golden light spilled from her chest, flowing outward like molten sunlight. The rope burned against her wrists, not cutting her but drawing the power into the sky. Gasps erupted across the courtyard. Guards staggered back, shielding their eyes. Birds took flight from the towers and trees as if sensing the surge of something ancient and wild. From the center of the light, a figure appeared. He was tall, regal, and terrifying in the most beautiful way. His hair shimmered like strands of molten gold, his eyes twin moons glowing in soft luminescence. Claws gleamed faintly at his fingertips, and a wolf's presence radiated from him. Not one wolf, but the essence of an entire pack, powerful, eternal, and commanding. The crowd froze. Legends whispered for centuries spoke of him, the golden lunar alpha, a creature of myth thought extinct. And yet here he stood, summoned by Serenia's untested power, drawn to her like iron to magnet. Kalen, for that was the name she had learned in the half-forgotten legends, stepped forward, his gaze fixing on her with a mixture of recognition and hunger. His voice was low, yet it reached every corner of the courtyard. "Omega, you are alive." Serenia felt a tremor within her, a pull she could neither resist nor explain. She had dreamed of this moment, yes, but never truly imagined what it would feel like to see him with her own eyes. He was danger and salvation in equal measure. Her heart surged, caught between awe and fear. The Alpha King's voice cut through the stunned silence. "What is this sorcery?" His command carried both authority and panic. "Seize her, destroy it." But no soldier moved. Kalen's presence was overwhelming. Their minds trembled before him. Their weapons seemed too small, too fragile. Even the executioner froze, axe trembling in his hands. Kalen stepped closer to Serenia, and the golden light around her responded, coiling and flowing like liquid sunlight. The ground beneath them hummed with power, a rhythm that matched Serenia's heartbeat. "Do not touch her," Kalen said, his voice now sharper, commanding not just respect but obedience. "She is mine, and you would learn better than to challenge the golden lunar Alpha." The Alpha King's jaw tightened. He had ruled for decades, believed in the absolute strength of his authority, yet here was a force beyond his comprehension. Fear and fury warred in him, but he could not deny the truth before his eyes. The crowd began to scatter, a tide of whispers and panic. Serenia's hands, still bound, glowed faintly. She felt the first flickers of her own power awakening, not fully but enough to taste it, enough to realize she was no longer powerless. Kalen reached out, his hand hovering near hers. The energy that surged between them was tangible, like threads of sunlight tying them together. She trembled, not from cold or fear, but from the recognition of destiny, the impossible, unimaginable truth that she had been waiting for. "You called me," Kalen said softly, yet the weight in his voice made every word a command. "And now I am here." Serenia's lips parted, unsure what to say. Her body was alive with energy, every nerve alert, every heartbeat synchronized with the golden presence before her. She wanted to run, wanted to flee into the shadows she had always known, but something stronger than fear held her in place. The executioner, recovering from his shock, tried to step forward once more, raising the axe with a trembling hand. Kalen's eyes flared, twin moons blazing bright. The air vibrated with the force of his power. A roar not quite human, not quite wolf, erupted from him, shaking the stones beneath their feet. The man fell back, terrified and silenced. Serenia finally found her voice. "I am no one's prey," she said, and this time the words carried an undeniable weight. They were not just defiance, they were the first declaration of her own power, her own life. Kalen's golden eyes softened, and he nodded once, a quiet acknowledgement that passed between predator and prey, alpha and omega, power and promise. The sun rose higher, but the light around them burned brighter than daylight itself. The Alpha King recoiled, fury flashing across his features. "This is not over," he shouted, retreating to his balcony. "This will not stand. The laws of this kingdom will not allow it." Kalen's gaze never left Serenia. "The laws of man do not bind the laws of the moon," he said, and in that moment the courtyard fell silent again, save for the soft, electric hum of golden energy. Serenia felt something she had never felt before, not fear, not despair, but recognition. She was no longer the wolfless Omega they had feared. She was the spark, the one who could awaken the legendary, the one who could change everything. And in the stillness, as the first light of dawn painted the world gold, she realized with both wonder and trepidation that nothing, no king, no pack, no law would ever see her the same way again. Above them, Kalen's golden form shimmered in the morning light, a promise of power, mystery, and danger. He extended his hand toward her. "Come," he said. "The world has waited too long. It is time you remembered who you truly are." Serenia hesitated, her heart pounding like the wings of a trapped bird. And then, with a mixture of fear, hope, and the first taste of freedom, she took his hand. The crowd scattered into whispers and legends, watching as a wolfless Omega, thought weak and doomed, rose with the golden lunar Alpha into a future none could imagine. The kingdom would never be the same. and neither would she. The sun had barely risen when the kingdom awoke to whispers of what had happened in the courtyard. By the time the nobles gathered in the palace halls, the news had spread like wildfire. The wolfless Omega had not only survived her execution, but she had awakened the golden lunar Alpha. Fear and fascination mingled in the court. The Alpha King paced across the balcony of his throne room, his heavy crown tilting slightly with his frustration. Every noble present felt the weight of his gaze, though none dared meet it for long. His lips pressed into a thin line as he spoke, voice low and sharp. The girl, she should have died, and yet some ancient force answered her call. A counselor dared to speak, voice trembling. Your Majesty, legends speak of the golden lunar Alpha, but surely he is extinct. Perhaps it is only a trick of light and shadow. The Alpha King's eyes narrowed. Extinct or not, he is real, and he is hers. Meanwhile, far beyond the walls of the palace, Serenia walked beside Kalen, the golden lunar Alpha. They had retreated to a secluded valley outside the city, a place untouched by the kingdom's watchful eyes. Here, the trees whispered secrets of the old world, and the moonlight pooled in silver lakes even in the morning. Serenia kept her gaze lowered, hands still trembling slightly from the surge of power she had felt in the courtyard. Kalen's presence was overwhelming, his golden aura brushing against her like sunlight and shadow combined. Yet, unlike the fear she had always carried, this presence did not oppress her. It awakened something deep within her. You are more than you know, Kalen said quietly, his eyes reflecting both moons and centuries of wisdom. The power you wield is ancient, older than any law or crown in that city. You are not wolfless, you have simply not yet called your bond. Serenia shook her head. I don't understand. I have never been able to summon anything. No wolf, no guide, no companion, I am nothing. That is why they wanted me dead. Kalen knelt slightly, bringing his golden gaze level with hers. You are everything, everything they fear, everything they have forgotten. Their ignorance does not define you. Your power waits because it has chosen you as I have chosen you. Her pulse quickened. Every word felt heavy with meaning. She wanted to ask him what it meant, why he had come to her, why the energy in her chest had responded to him, but the words caught in her throat. For the first time, she was not afraid of power. She was afraid of the responsibility it carried. The Alpha King will not forgive this, she whispered. He will see me as a threat. We are dangerous to him. Kalen's lips curved slightly, a shadow of amusement beneath his golden eyes. Danger is my nature. As for the Alpha King, he will learn, as all men eventually do, that some forces cannot be caged. They moved through the forest, silence hanging between them, punctuated only by the soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of an unseen wolf. Kalen's gaze never left her. She felt it everywhere, a tether pulling her forward, urging her to understand the truth of what she had become. Hours passed. The valley grew darker, shadows stretching long as clouds partially hid the sun. Finally, Kalen stopped by the edge of a lake whose surface reflected the sky like liquid silver. He turned to her fully, his expression serious now. The bond between us is not simple, he said. It is not like the bonds of other alphas and omegas. You awakened me and I am drawn to you. But that bond comes with risks. Power like yours, power like mine, invites envy, hatred, even death. Serenia swallowed. Then why stay with me? Why not leave and let me face the Alpha King alone? Kalen's golden hair caught the remaining sunlight. Because you are not meant to face him alone. Not now, not ever. And because I have waited for centuries for one who could awaken me. One who could see me not as legend but as I am. Serenia's heart thumped in her chest, a mixture of fear and wonder. She did not know what to say. She had been alone her whole life, thought weak and cursed by the world. Now, beside this creature of myth, she felt a warmth she had never known, an awareness that she mattered, that her life was not forfeit, that she could be powerful, luminous, even dangerous in ways she had never imagined. Kalen extended his hand, not commanding, not threatening, but inviting. "Take it," he said. "Allow yourself to feel what has been waiting within you. Let your power awaken fully." Serenia hesitated. The energy in her chest pulsed, urgent, demanding release. But fear whispered at the edges of her mind. She had never controlled this. She had never trusted herself. She looked at Kalen, golden light washing over him like sunlight caught in water, and slowly placed her hand in his. The surge was immediate. Light flared from her palm, weaving around Kalen, binding them with threads of shimmering gold. She gasped, staggered back, but Kalen held her steady, grounding her. "You feel it, don't you?" he asked softly. "The bond. It is yours as much as it is mine. It has chosen both of us. And now it can grow." Her eyes widened as visions of power and history, of old battles and hidden truths, flashed through her mind. She saw herself not weak, not abandoned, but standing at the center of a storm of energy. She saw Kalen, not a creature of legend but of flesh and thought, bound by fate to her in ways she could scarcely comprehend. What is happening," she whispered. "It is your gift," Kalen said, "and your curse if you allow it to be. You will not be powerless again, Serenia. Not while I am near, and not while your courage allows you to stand." The wind picked up, carrying scents she had never smelled before: wildflowers, rain on stone, and the metallic tang of magic. She felt alive in a way she never had. And yet, alongside that thrill was a shadow of doubt. Could she truly control this? Could she survive what was to come? Their moment was interrupted by distant sounds, the clatter of armor, the harsh shouts of men moving through the forest. The Alpha King's forces had not remained idle. Word of Kalen's appearance had spread, and now they came, intent on capturing or killing the girl who had defied the laws of the kingdom. Kalen's golden aura flared brighter, illuminating the darkening trees. "They come," he said calmly. "Do not be afraid. They will learn soon enough that no force of man can touch what has been awakened." Serenia's hand tightened around his. "I'm afraid," she admitted. "And you should be," he replied gently, yet with unwavering strength. "Fear is what keeps us alive. Courage is what allows us to defy it." The first soldiers appeared at the edge of the clearing, their spears and swords glinting in the filtered sunlight. They hesitated, awed and terrified by the golden figure beside Serenia. Kalen stepped forward, and his presence alone made the soldiers falter. Their minds struggled to comprehend what they faced: an alpha of legend, alive and radiant, bound to a girl they had tried to destroy. Serenia felt a pull in her chest, the golden energy thrumming in response to her fear, her courage, her determination. She looked at Kalen and realized she could not run. Not now, not ever. If she wanted to survive, if she wanted to claim the power that had always been hers, she had to face this moment head-on. Kalen's voice broke through her thoughts. "Do you trust yourself?" I trust you," she said, though her voice wavered. "Then let it guide you," he said, and in that moment she felt the golden light around her surge, stronger and brighter than ever. Threads of energy stretched outward, forming shapes that resembled wolves, their eyes glowing like molten gold. They moved with her thoughts, circling the soldiers, forcing them back. The Alpha King's men stumbled, fear rooting them in place. Spears clattered to the ground. Horses reared, and men shouted orders that no one could hear over the hum of energy. Kalen moved with her, his presence a shield, a guide, and a force to amplify her awakening. Together they were not just two beings, they were a storm of golden power, a force of legend come to life. And yet, even as the last soldiers fell back, retreating into the forest with whispers of terror, Serenia knew the danger was far from over. The Alpha King would not yield. His desire for control was absolute, and he would see her destroyed if it meant maintaining his rule. But as she looked at Kalen, she also felt something new: hope, strength, the first real understanding of what she could become. The bond that had awakened in the courtyard had grown in these few hours, and she was no longer the girl they had thought weak and wolfless. "You are ready," Kalen said, his golden eyes reflecting hers. "But this is only the beginning. The world will not accept you so easily. You must learn, grow, and survive." Serenia nodded, her fingers still entwined with his. "Then we will face it together." And as the forest grew silent again, a new power thrummed between them, a promise of challenges, battles, and discoveries that would shape not only their destinies but the fate of the kingdom itself. The forest seemed alive with whispers, shadows twisting and shifting as though the trees themselves were watching. Serenia walked beside Kalen, the golden lunar alpha, her steps uncertain at first, then gradually more confident. Each step carried a pulse of energy, faint but insistent, reminding her that she was no longer powerless. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice soft, carrying both curiosity and unease. "To a place forgotten by men," Kalen replied, his golden eyes reflecting sunlight that barely penetrated the dense canopy. "A place where the old magic still breathes. You will learn the truth of your power there." The path was treacherous, winding through tangled roots, cliffs that dropped into shadowed ravines, and streams whose waters glimmered with an unnatural silver light. Serenia stumbled once, and Kalen caught her with a hand strong enough to crush stone, yet gentle in its hold. "You must trust yourself as much as you trust me," he said, and there was no question in his tone. "The world beyond these woods will not wait for hesitation." Serenia nodded, swallowing her fear. She had always been careful, measured, cautious, but caution alone had never awakened what lay within her. Only the bond she now shared with Kalen made the impossible seem possible. Hours passed. The forest gave way to ruins, tall, crumbling pillars of marble and stone covered in moss, remnants of a kingdom long forgotten. A river of silver water ran through the center, and inscriptions in a language older than any scholar she had known glimmered faintly along the stones. "This place," Serenia breathed, all coloring her words. "It feels alive." Kalen inclined his head. "It is alive. The old magic sleeps here, waiting for those who can awaken it. And you, Serenia, have begun the stirring, but you must learn to control it, to understand it, or it will consume you." They walked deeper into the ruins, where the air seemed heavier, vibrating with energy that made the hair on Serenia's arms stand on end. She could feel threads of power weaving through the stones, brushing against her, testing her, drawing her attention to corners where shadows moved of their own accord. "Why me?" she asked finally, breaking the silence. "Why am I chosen?" Kalen's gaze softened, though the intensity of his golden eyes never wavered. "Because you were born to see what others cannot. Because you are wolfless in the eyes of the world, but not in truth. The power you hold is rare, ancient, even. And the world, it needs it whether it knows it or not." Serenia's chest tightened. "I don't feel special, I feel afraid, alone." "You are not alone," Kalen said firmly. "Not anymore, you never were." He extended a hand, letting her take it. The warmth of his touch anchored her. Fear is part of growth. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. You must act, Serenia, for yourself, and for what you are destined to become." She drew in a trembling breath. She wanted to resist, to doubt, to run. But the pull of Kalen, of the energy within her, was stronger than any hesitation. She nodded, though the nod was fragile at first, and they moved forward together. The first trial came suddenly. A corridor of fallen stones opened before them, a dark void yawning like a mouth ready to swallow them. Shadows moved within, twisting into shapes she could not name. She could hear whispers in her mind, cold and tempting, urging her to turn back, to give in to fear. Kalen's hand tightened around hers. "Focus. Do not let the shadows touch your heart. Your power will guide you if you allow it." Serenia closed her eyes, inhaling the scent of moss and old stone, the faint metallic tang of magic in the air. She reached inward, feeling the pulse of golden light in her chest, letting it expand outward. Slowly, tendrils of energy stretched from her, illuminating the corridor, pushing back the darkness. Shapes recoiled, hissing, fading into nothing. When she opened her eyes, Kalen smiled faintly. "Well done," he said. "You are learning faster than I expected." She felt a small surge of pride, quickly tempered by the reminder of how fragile her control was. "What are those things?" she asked. "Shadows of doubt," Kalen said. "Memories of fear, forms of the old world's hatred. They will come again, stronger each time. You must grow stronger to face them." The second trial came soon after. A lake of black water spread before them, still and reflective, but moving with a strange, hypnotic rhythm. The surface shimmered with images of Serenia's past, faces of those who had abandoned her, whispers of judgment, the cruelty of a world that had never accepted her. "Step forward," Kalen urged. "You must walk across it or turn back and remain powerless." Her heart leapt into her throat. The water seemed endless and the reflections of her failures stared back with merciless clarity. But Kalen's hand remained in hers, steadying her, anchoring her. I can't," she whispered. "Yes, you can," he said, "because you are not alone. You are bound to me and I to you. Let the bond guide you. Let the power within you protect you." With trembling steps, Serenia placed her foot on the surface. To her surprise, the water did not swallow her. The golden energy that had awakened in the courtyard and strengthened in the forest now flowed from her feet, solidifying beneath her, forming a bridge of shimmering light. She walked, step by step, heart racing, until she reached the other side. Kalen's gaze followed her, approving yet concerned. "You are growing, Serenia, faster than even I anticipated, but the greatest trials are yet to come. The past will not release its grip without a fight, and so will the world beyond this place." Exhausted but determined, she sank to the ground at the edge of the ruins, letting the golden energy ebb back into her chest. Kalen knelt beside her. "You are doing more than surviving," he said softly. "You are becoming something more luminous, powerful. And with each step, the bond between us strengthens. That bond will guide you through what comes next." Serenia felt a mixture of relief and unease. She was learning, yes, but the trials had revealed more than just her strength. They had shown her the depth of the danger surrounding her, the shadows of doubt, the echoes of cruelty, the looming wrath of the Alpha King. "Will we ever return to the kingdom?" she asked quietly. Kalen's golden eyes darkened for a moment, reflecting centuries of memories she could not yet understand. "We must," he said finally, "but not until you are ready, not until you understand the full measure of your power. The Alpha King will not wait for you to feel safe. He will strike, and when he does, you must be prepared to meet him not as a girl they wish dead, but as the force you are destined to be." Her chest tightened at his words. The Alpha King's presence, distant yet unavoidable, weighed on her even here, far from the palace. She understood the magnitude of the threat now. It was not just physical, but political, emotional, and spiritual. He would stop at nothing to maintain control over a world that no longer followed the rules he had set. Kalen stood, brushing dust from his golden robes. "Rest now," he said. "We will face the next trial at night, beneath the full moon. That is when your power will awaken further, and when you will glimpse the truth of the bond that has chosen us both." Serenia watched him, feeling the pull of his presence even as he moved away to survey the ruins. She had never known a connection like this, neither fear nor lust, but a bond that hummed through her veins, tethering her to something greater than herself. She did not yet understand it fully, but she knew one thing: she could not deny it. Night came quickly. The sky darkened, stars pricking the velvet black, and the full moon rose above the ruins, casting silver light across the valley. Kalen returned, his aura glowing faintly under the lunar glow. "Tonight," he said, "we test the final trial. You will confront your deepest fear, the truth of what has shaped you, and the legacy of the bond we share." Serenia shivered, though the tremor was not entirely from fear. The golden energy in her chest pulsed like a heartbeat, ready to surge, ready to reveal truths she had never dared face. Kalen held out his hand. "Do you trust me?" she nodded, placing her hand in his. The golden light leapt between them, wrapping around her like a protective embrace. And then, as the moonlight touched the ruins, the air around them thickened, shimmering with energy, and the shadows of the past began to rise, not as whispers, not as illusions, but as shapes of living darkness, moving toward them with intent. Serenia's heart raced. This was the moment she had feared and longed for, the moment when she would face the power within her, the bond she could no longer deny, and the darkness that had haunted her since birth. Kalen's voice was steady in the night. "Do not falter, do not doubt. The golden lunar alpha walks with you, and you are the light that binds me. Together we will face what comes." The shadows advanced. Serenia felt the energy surge in response. She no longer felt weak. She no longer felt abandoned. She felt the bond, the power, and the responsibility of her destiny. And in that silver-lit valley, the first true battle of mind, heart, and magic began. The sky above the kingdom was a storm of gray and silver, clouds swirling as if the heavens themselves were unsettled. Rumors of the golden lunar alpha and the wolfless omega had spread far and wide, and the Alpha King, furious and unyielding, had mobilized his army to reclaim control. Soldiers marched with weapons glinting, banners snapping in the wind, their hearts fueled by fear and loyalty alike. Serenia and Kalen stood on a high cliff overlooking the kingdom. The wind tore at their clothes and hair, yet they were unmoved, their bond stronger than ever. Golden energy shimmered faintly around them, a sign of the power they had nurtured together, a light against the gathering shadows. Kalen's gaze swept over the land. "This is the moment," he said quietly. "The Alpha King will test you, the world will challenge you. But you are no longer the girl they condemned. You are the force that will change everything." Serenia swallowed hard. She had faced shadows of doubt, illusions of fear, and the haunting reflections of her past in the forest and ruins. Each trial had left her stronger, more certain, and more aware of the golden energy pulsing inside her. Yet now, standing before the kingdom that had shunned her, fear returned, not of power, but of the responsibility that power demanded. "I don't know if I can," she admitted, voice trembling. "I've faced so much already, and now the Alpha King." Kalen's hand found hers, grounding her. "You can," he said firmly, "because you are not alone. The bond we share is stronger than any army, any crown, any law. You carry the light of the golden lunar alpha, and together we will face him. Trust yourself. Trust me." The two of them descended toward the city, the golden energy surrounding them like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. As they approached the gates, soldiers raised their weapons, but many faltered, fear evident in their eyes. Legends spoke of the golden lunar alpha, but none had seen him in centuries. Now he walked with the girl they had called cursed, their presence unstoppable and radiant. The Alpha King awaited them in the main square, standing tall, his crown heavy with authority and rage. His expression was a mask of control, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty. "So, you have returned," he said, voice ringing out across the square. "And not only alive, but accompanied by that legend." Kalen's golden eyes met his without fear. "I am here," he said, voice calm yet commanding, "because she called me, and I will not leave until the truth is known." Serenia felt the energy within her respond to Kalen's words. It pulsed and stretched, filling her limbs with warmth and strength. She lifted her chin, feeling the fear and doubt of her past fall away. She was no longer the wolfless omega they had condemned. She was luminous, powerful, and ready. The Alpha King's lips tightened. "You think you can challenge the laws of this kingdom. You think you can defy me." "I do not think," Serenia said, her voice steady, carrying over the square. "I know, and I am not alone." With that, the golden light around her surged, expanding outward in waves that brushed against the edges of the crowd, pushing back fear and doubt. Soldiers staggered, shielding their eyes. Whispers rippled through the people. The golden lunar alpha, the wolfless omega, she is more than we imagined. Kalen moved beside her, aura flaring brighter. This is your choice, Alpha King, he said, to continue with cruelty or to see the world as it must be. She is no longer yours to control. She is free and powerful. The Alpha King's jaw clenched. For a moment, silence reigned, heavy and tense, broken only by the wind and the distant calls of unseen wolves. Then he raised his hand, signaling his forces to advance. Serenia felt a surge of energy as soldiers approached, and instinctively the golden light flared outward, forming shapes that resembled the wolves of legend. They moved in precise, protective formations around her and Kalen, their eyes glowing with molten gold. The soldiers hesitated, the power before them impossible to ignore. Kalen's voice cut through the tension. "Stand firm, Serenia. This is the moment of your true awakening." Her hands glowed and she focused on the bond, on the golden thread connecting her to Kalen. The energy responded instantly, expanding, sweeping over the square in waves. Soldiers were thrown back by the force, their weapons tumbling. Banners ripped from poles and scattered in the wind. Even the Alpha King felt the weight of the power pressing against him. Serenia's voice rose, not in anger, not in vengeance, but in clarity. "I am no one's curse. I am no one's weapon. I am myself, and I will not bow to fear or hatred." Kalen's hand tightened around hers. "Now," he whispered, and the golden energy surged fully, illuminating every corner of the city. Shadows that had long lingered in the hearts of men recoiled. The Alpha King's forces faltered, their resolve shaken. The Alpha King stepped forward, but even he could not ignore the truth in her words, the strength in her stance. Rage warred with disbelief on his face. You dare challenge me." "I do," Serenia said, and for the first time she felt no doubt, no fear, only clarity. Only the bond and power she had nurtured through trials and fear. The square shivered as golden light and energy pulsed outward, forming a protective aura that seemed impenetrable. Soldiers stumbled, the wind tugging at their armor and weapons. The people of the city watched in awe, whispers rising. "She is powerful, she is luminous, she is free." Kalen's golden form flared beside her, twin moons blazing in his eyes. "You are not alone, Alpha King," he said, "and neither are you in control of what cannot be contained. Your reign of fear ends today." The Alpha King's roar was thunderous, but it faltered under the sheer force of their combined power. His sword clanged against stone as he swung blindly, unable to pierce the golden barrier around them. Every movement he made was countered by the bond, by the light, by the strength Serenia had found within herself. The people watched, hearts pounding, as a new order seemed to take shape before them. Not one of fear, but of possibility. Not one of cruelty, but of courage. The city itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the conclusion of a story centuries in the making. Finally, the Alpha King fell to his knees, chest heaving. This cannot be," he whispered. Kalen's gaze softened, yet it carried the weight of judgment. "It is. And it has always been possible. Only the bond, the courage, and the truth could awaken it. You see now that power is not just control, it is responsibility, and the courage to wield it wisely." Serenia stepped forward, golden energy still glowing from her hands. "I do not seek to destroy," she said. "I seek to change. The world must be stronger, brighter, and freer. That is the path I choose." The Alpha King lowered his head, and for the first time the people saw a ruler humbled not by defeat, but by truth. Even his crown, heavy with authority and centuries of rule, could not mask the recognition of the force he could not command. Kalen's hand brushed against hers, and together they let the golden energy settle, not extinguishing it, but weaving it into the world around them. Shadows faded, fear dissolved, and the city was bathed in a warm, golden light. Serenia felt tears in her eyes, not of sorrow but of release. She had survived every trial, faced every shadow, and discovered the depth of her power. She had stood beside the golden lunar alpha and found herself luminous, unyielding, and free. The people began to stir, hesitant at first, then with growing courage. Whispers of awe became murmurs of hope. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Nobles exchanged glances, realizing that the kingdom had changed not because of force, but because one girl and one legend had dared to rise. Kaelin's golden gaze softened, and he bowed slightly toward her. "You have done more than awaken me," he said quietly. "You have awakened a new era." Serenia smiled, her energy settling but still glowing faintly, a reminder of what she had become. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said. "No," Kaelin replied. "You did this. I only guided. The courage, the bond, the strength, they are yours." The two of them stood together as the sun broke through the clouds, casting light over a city that would never forget this day. The kingdom had witnessed fear, power, and legend, and emerged with hope. And yet, even in victory, there was a quiet understanding. The world was vast, full of forces yet unseen, powers yet undiscovered, and challenges yet to come. But Serenia was no longer the girl they had tried to destroy. She was the wolfless Omega who had awakened a legend, and she would face whatever came next with Kaelin by her side. The moon rose that night, full and luminous, golden light reflecting on the city. Serenia and Kaelin stood at the edge of the cliff once more, hands entwined, the bond between them glowing like a promise. "We have changed the kingdom," Serenia said softly. "And ourselves," Kaelin replied. "But this is only the beginning. Together we will face the future, whatever it may hold." And as the stars shimmered above and the golden lunar light bathed the land, a new story began, not of fear, not of exile, but of courage, bond, and transformation. One that would echo across generations, a story of light rising where darkness had once ruled.